Colors of Politics, NRI, on RI Free Radio. Just as the rainbow has many colors, there are multiple opinions and views of the way our state government should be run. Let us be to the point and deliver the truth. It is time to break down the colors of politics.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to another show of Colors of Politics in RI on RI Free Radio. And don't forget to hit us up on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope at Colors of RI. And tonight we have Pat Ford from the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. He's going to give us some great information about what's coming up, what's happened, and everything in between. So thank you for joining us, Pat.
No problem. Happy to finally get on your show.
Yes, I appreciate your beyond awesome attempt the first time. Why don't you begin with telling everybody your role and how you came into that role with the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island and a little bit of background of the party, and then go forward from there.
Well, first of all, I know this guy named Tony Jones, and he had me sign some paper one night in a dark bar and said, "Don't worry about it, it'll never be much work, and you're just a figurehead." And then he laughed and twirled his snidely whiplash mustache and then chuckled and walked away. But seriously, I've been a libertarian all my life, I just didn't know it. Most people are. Most people are libertarians, and it's never really been properly explained to them. So I am the chairman of the Libertarian Party. Libertarian Party, I would say, got darker. Tony and Mike Rollins and other people kept the flame alive, but we got quiet for a couple of years, and I think it's fair to say that in the last year we've been anything but quiet. But
yes.
A big part of my job is to reaching out to people across the state and explaining exactly what a libertarian believes. So it's actually pretty straightforward. While there are, like any political persuasion, there are different shades, if you will, of libertarian, different levels of belief in parts of the system. The one belief that's fundamentally true is that we believe in the rights of the individual, and the rights of the individual are paramount to the rights of the collective. The individual has the right to free determination, essentially choosing and a path for themselves to lead. So far as it does not, and this is an important part that folks don't realize in the libertarian movement, does not violate just what they call the non-aggression principle. And the non-aggression principle in English essentially says is that you will not harm other people and your actions will not harm other people. As some libertarians like to say, you promise not to take people's things and break their stuff and treat them poorly. That's important because in some of the misconceptions about the libertarian movement, people are led to believe that we can act capriciously in our own interest without regard to others, and nothing could be further from the truth. The libertarian, if you will, that I believe in something called voluntarism, and that's not volunteering. We believe in a lot of that too. We believe that the individual and individual groups of people who have got together as free men and women can be volunteers and provide for what is so poorly provided for by the government safety net. But voluntarism is different. I truly believe that I voluntarily consent to be governed. The right to be governed is something that I decide on. And I believe I have the right to withhold that consent at any time. And why is that important? Because
I was just going to say, that's extremely important.
Right. Government has no sway over me. Government has no inalienable rights over me. We as individuals have inalienable rights granted to us at birth, and self-determination is one of them. So as a libertarian, I believe in the free exchange of commerce, I believe in the free exchange of ideas, I believe in the free exchange of people. I believe ultimately that capitalism is the mechanism by which the individual can reach their full human potential. What I mean by that is that as an individual, you need to be rewarded for your efforts and your ability to innovate, your ability to create, your ability to think independently. If it leads to personal profit, then in fact your ability to create your own personal profit as a result of your efforts then can be channeled into and invested in the ideas of others. And that's how society grows, that's how society innovates, and that's what's made America great. It's not this collectivist notion that we as a village need to raise the children. It's that we as individuals, through our own success and our own hard work, can provide others opportunities both to participate in our success voluntarily or to invest in other people's success. So that's the libertarianism that I embrace and that I think works, and I think desperately needs to be brought to a place where Rhode Island, where the collective truly doesn't exist, because the collective as defined by Rhode Island government is nothing more than individuals profiting at the expense of the many. So in a sense, it's the flip side.
Yeah, the exact opposite.
Because Rhode Island government looks at the individual as a necessary evil for which to draw sustenance from so that they can continue their role of government. There's no give back. Rhode Island government does nothing for us. I challenge any of your listeners, and you can reach me at pford at LPRI.us, to give me an example of anything that the Rhode Island government is capable of doing at any level whatsoever. They are abject failures in everything they touch, and they do nothing but drain resources from the individuals who comprise Rhode Island, who could be so much more successful if, in fact, Rhode Island government was to dramatically shrink and essentially leave people alone to really choose their own path.
No, I completely
agree. That's what I believe is libertarian.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially in the fact of Rhode Island government is definitely has not for years focused on the best interest of the individual in much of anything that I've personally been any knowledge of knowing.
No, I mean, it's what's said is that we have this overwhelmingly expensive, obtrusive, and intrusive government. Yet at the same time, despite being incredibly expensive and being, omnipresent, omnipotent, interestingly enough, they're completely infinite. They do nothing well. And the UHIP scandal is yet another perfect example of that. The state somehow has decided that they are going to be in the computer business, and they're going to spend $500 million of your money, my money, in order to do so. And yet, they frame it under the guise of helping the poor. It doesn't appear to me that in any shape or form the poor are being helped.
No, I'd say it's hindering that assistance, if anything.
No, so you've got this incredibly expensive system, which, in my mind, I'd love to see an analysis, as we would at any private charity, analyze how much of every dollar spent actually arrives at someone's doorstep. Another perfect example of that is RIPTR. As I affectionately refer to it, in the RIPTR mass transportation system here in Little Rhodey, we spend millions and millions subsidizing them. Yet when given the opportunity at minimal expense of affording the poorest among us a free ride program, because there are so many poor in Rhode Island because they've been devastated by a government that is, again, incompetent, overreaching, and grotesquely inefficient, so much opportunity has been left the wayside, even in places like Boston and the Gold Coast of Connecticut, that they decide that no, they're going to tax the poor. Well, you've got a situation now in Tucket, for example, where the soup kitchen went on a media effort that I'm involved in and pointed out to folks that you've got people who simply can't afford to feed themselves, nor can they actually even afford to go and be fed.
Yeah, so, to get there.
You've got a situation where the government of Rhode Island has fundamentally broken down to the point where, despite drawing millions and millions, untold billions of dollars out of the economy, they are simply unable to function at any level. Yet, continue to provide the delusion that we live in some socialist workers' paradise. And I think anyone who lives in any one of a number of towns like Woonsocket, South and West Providence, parts of Cranston, all over West Warwick, where you're broadcasting right now, are living testimony to the fact that, there is simply a ceiling that has been placed on the potential of the individual here in Rhode Island by a government that can't even maintain basic functionality. And quite frankly, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. I mean, with myself personally going up to the State House on a consistent basis and trying to work with different issues and speaking on bills, and then obviously the one main issue of the HPV mandate. That's been my primary focus for 2 years now. But to delve myself into it is, I've learned a heck of a lot more about how crappy the whole setup and system is than I was even aware before doing it. That.
And the problem, of course, is that both parties are equally complicit. The Republicans would have you believe that all of this derived from, the Democratic hegemony that's existed here for a couple of generations, and no doubt they have a point. But when given the opportunity, they simply act in the same sort of craven manner as the Democrats. I'll give you a couple of perfect examples. Despite being a virtual no-show, the former House Minority Leader is all over the media now, positioning himself for a federal judgeship or a position as the federal prosecuting attorney. And you've got this rush by what is supposedly has been self-described by their minority whip as the party of small government, the party of personal freedom. There is a rush to do everything but. There's a rush for the jobs that can be potentially created by the Trump administration. There's no introspection whatsoever in terms of whether those jobs are actually necessary. So there's a little gold rush going on for that here in Rhode Island, as pathetic as that may seem. The Trump administration, of course, it represents nothing more than an authoritarian regime looking to quell the rights of the individual under the disturbing notion that somehow we'll all be better off. I think we've heard that before in history, where individual rights are to be sacrificed. You saw the prospect of, oh my God, I've only seen the initial videos of yesterday in Providence, but
funny. I was just about to ask you, so what do you think about what you've seen from yesterday?
The kids now, I think the term is they call it a hot mess. Now, I may be a year or so out of vogue. I'm the last person, as the uncoolest person alive, I am the last person to find out what the great terms are, but I think hot mess describes that fiasco best. And what's fascinating is you've got this parallel going on. The Republican establishment, who seems to have embraced Donald Trump, complaining all the while that he should be given an opportunity and that there should be no protest against him, despite how they reacted, somewhat justifiably, to President Obama, is all about suppressing demonstrations. In the terms that they use in the interviews and on social media, how they regarded other Rhode Islanders, the terms that they used were disgusting. It's just, how can you be a party of hate and hope to rule for all? I don't understand it. There's no cogent foreign policy at this point. We've seen with the demise of the healthcare system, a party that had spent 6 to 7 years complaining that they were mischaracterized as a party of no, the party of exceptionalism, but when given the opportunity, had nothing in the can. Nothing.
Yeah, they should have been locked and loaded and ready for that.
Right, it should have been, they should have gone to, I'll update myself here, they should have gone to their Word Perfect or their whatever, or Microsoft Word and gone, click and print. Here we go, this is what we want to do. And you know what, the same thing is going to happen with the alleged tax reform, which, by the way, is being pushed back day after day after day because they have no plan there. Their plan is simply to gain power and be the new kid in town. And to which I say, I believe it was the who in a moment of remarkable political clarity, they probably didn't realize it at the time, but saying, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And nothing could be truer than what's going on in Washington right now and what's going on in Providence right now. So I simply draw no distinction whatsoever between the two operating political parties. The Republicans seem to be the less cooler version who weren't allowed to be in the Democratic Party, but when given the opportunity, act in the same capricious method as the Democrats. Which, of course, by the way, is why we have 38 studios. Remember, the 38 studios was, shall we say, perpetrated by a Republican administration and a Republican Department of Economic Development, as it was called at the time, now known as the Commerce Corporation. So please spare me the notion that they'll act any differently this time around if given, God forbid, the reins of government. So.
For any of you just tuning in with us on Colors of Politics, we have Pat Ford from the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. And if you caught the last couple of minutes, we are discussing a myriad array of topics in the state of Rhode Island and where the Libertarian Party is going. So, Pat, I believe the Libertarian Party has monthly meetings right now?
Third Monday of every month. We are also announcing that we will be having our convention on May 20th. We believe that it's going to be held in Bristol, but we'll have within sometime this week we'll be making a formal announcement. But that's an opportunity for folks to come and learn about the libertarian movement. But also we have monthly meetings, and the last few have been held at Brewed Awakenings in Warwick. It's open to the public. You do not have to be a member. And we do have opportunity for public comments at the end of every meeting. So folks are welcome to join us there. Of course, our website is LPRI.us. And, you can sign up there and be on our mailing list. We do send out newsletters, and we do send out updates on what's involved. You can join the Libertarian Party at the state level and or the national level. If you join the state level, you'll have, of course, full voting privileges within the libertarian movement itself and the ability to partake in any one of the number of committees that we formed or in the process of forming. We're going through an effort now. We went through a long, hard-fought election campaign. We ran 3 candidates for the General Assembly. They did well beyond any of our expectations. They ran fabulous issues, as our former president would say, issues-oriented campaigns, to the point where on a couple of occasions, our opponents were nuclear, or as W. Bush used to say. And we continue to raise the bar, because while they obsess about feeding at the trough, that they obsess about looking for jobs, we're going to talk about issues. And cronyism and fighting cronyism is our number one issue. We are a successful part of the groups that fought the Providence Stadium. We worked diligently in fighting and I think ultimately defeating the taxation of medical cannabis by Governor Raimondo, who sought to tax the ill and the dying. We're going to be and continue to be intimately involved in the legalization movement in cannabis here in the state. We are going to continue. We maintained active picket lines all last summer during public events held at the Superman building. We will continue to do so. And as all these ugly issues continue to raise their heads, sort of like a twisted political version of whack-a-mole, we'll be on the front lines for all of them, because we are an issues-orientated, as we like to joke, party. It's all about personal freedom, and it's all about pointing out a case after case after case, these ill-fated attempts by both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party in this state to impose additional levels of a train wreck government on us. And you'll see a lot of us over the next few years. We aren't going away. We had our most successful campaign ever. It was at the presidential level. It was spearheaded by Tony Jones. I believe we roughly tripled our vote count over previous libertarian records. And we're gearing up for another campaign in a year and a half from now, because someone in the room has got to act like an adult, and someone in the room has to actually point on the issues as opposed to the cult of personality that pervades Rhode Island politics. And that's our biggest role, because we are a party.
Yes, and the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island definitely was on the scene for 2016. You guys definitely were out on a consistent basis and got media attention and made sure that people were aware that you existed. If somebody was interested in coming to a monthly meeting, you said the third Monday of every month. So those of you out there, if you know that's available for April in your schedule, what would they be expecting to learn, or what should they know about that meeting?
Well, the monthly meetings are really the organizational effort behind the party itself. We were very successful in 2016 at having meetups on at least once or twice a month. Those, as the weather starts to break down, we're going to restart those. So there's really a twofold effort. At the monthly meetings, we focus on the business of the party. We feel it's important that should be held in a public venue, so that folks understand that there are organizations getting away from the closed door, behind the scenes kind of foolishness that pervades the two major parties. But the media, and there's plenty of opportunity after the meeting, of course, to socialize and ask about issues. And like I said, there's a public comment session at the end of our meeting. Now that the weather is breaking, as we restart the meetups again, very often what we'll do, we'll have them, any one of a number of locations around the state, we'll have a speaker come in and they'll discuss an issue. But what's unique about us, we'll open up the room to any speaker from any organization that's got a point of view. And give them the opportunity. Now, you've done it yourself.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I did that.
Yeah, to address the room about their issue and to take open questions. It's an interesting process because, as you know, a lot of these questions can come out of left field. Very often, people who are representing an issue learn from the engagement, and people who are there to ask questions learn from the engagement. It's a non-judgmental, open discussion. It's sort of like the political bull session that you may have held in high school or college late at night, except that this is in a room full of people from a lot of different backgrounds. We're genuinely interested in all things political, all things issues, and want an opportunity to talk about it with other adults and talk about it in a manner from which people can learn, as opposed to a lot of talk radio, somebody excluded, but a lot of talk radio where you have the host continually inflicting his or her view upon you. And as far as conversation, it's nothing but an amen choir provided by a certain subset of loyal listeners. In any deviation, if you will, from the mantra or from the narrative is strictly frowned upon through the tyranny of what I call the mute button. That's what a lot of talk radio has descended in, quite frankly, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and one of the visions I had for starting this particular talk show was to give whichever guest came on with whichever their political topic was the floor to say their perspective, whether or not they agreed with me, to still give them the time to tell the listeners their perspective, because the listening body cannot learn something new if I am restricting the narrative of the show.
Exactly. No, it's critical, and you're spot on. There is simply too much, I'll call it a cult of personality philosophy in Rhode Island politics, whether it be in the media or at the level of the elected official. We're far too concerned about treating each individual race like a sports race. We're far too concerned about the fundraising and the polls. We're far too concerned about the personal relationships between the people involved. And we spend little or no time beating up on the issue. And that's what matters. And not only that, the ability of said politician, quite frankly, to deliver. So we're spoon-fed this pablum, every year or two when some critically important defining election comes up, and there's little or no creative independent thought left. It's simply, and here you've got, by the way, the prospect, the Raimondo administration, who engages in their clearly one of the most fascinating examples of good speak that I've ever seen. What I mean by that is creating their own vision of what's happening as opposed to what's really happening.
Yeah, opposed to reality.
Right. It's also a reality that they're focusing on developing on the media outside of the state because of, I guess, either probably temporarily aborted attempts to go national, but it's fascinating to watch out-of-state politicians pander to her while most of the state loathes her. And the alternate realities, or what do we call them now? It was alternate truths, or what was that?
Alternate facts? Is that what it is?
Alternate facts, right? Thank you. The alternate facts that are being spun, it's numbing. This state is in a death spiral, and yet there's a significant part of the regional media and national media that believes that she's the poster child for good government.
I know, she gets so many spotlight things that are just mind-boggling. And I just want to say to any of the listeners out there, in note of what you were saying for you guys opening your meetings up, I did personally present about the HPV mandate to the Libertarian Party a while ago, actually on 2 separate occasions, I believe, when I had significant updates. And I can tell you, if you have any topic, especially if your topic is about something to do with your personable rights and something that is significantly in that way, but any topic out there, definitely contact the Libertarian Party. You're going to get people that may or may not agree, depending on your topic, but are willing to ask questions and learn about your perspective, and you just might end up with a body of people that are going to back what your mission is. So I encourage...
We treat all people, all belief systems with respect. That's something that's sadly missing in today's body politic. And, I just listened to the rhetoric that the Republican Party is currently using with regard to progressives, with regard to environmentalists, with regard to folks who are involved in sexual politics, identity politics. It's the hate speech is astonishing, yet dares thou turn that same rhetorical gun, if you will, on any one of their elected officials, and the crocodile tears are right there. It's kind of stunning blot. It's amusing. It would be amusing, I guess, if it wasn't so damn serious. We've got a president who's, you talk about an alternate reality, and yet locally here in Rhode Island, the Republican Party seems to be embracing Trump's vision. Certainly not a vision of liberty. And we had a meeting right after the election, and we discussed how we would react to Trump. And we made it clear that as an organization, we will not react to him emotionally. We will react to him constitutionality, to his constitutionality, and on an issue-by-issue basis, addressing the facts exactly where he is wrong. He is wrong just about everywhere. It wasn't just health care. It's, again, his taxation policy. You've got the prospect now of conservatives supporting a president who believes in suppressing the rights of the media, who believes in suppressing free speech, who is, and who, clearly has issues with the Fourth Amendment in terms of detention, search, and seizure, is clearly interested in a multi-billion-dollar, if not trillion-dollar, quote-unquote, I'll use the air quotes here, investment in public works. If you were to say this a year ago, you would have said, during that President Obama, how dare he, have this type of executive overreach? How dare he, ignore the Constitution? Yet the very same folks who were at such a high level of vitriol, who were so desperately opposed to every single thing the Obamanistas did during their 8-year, trail of terror, if you will, are turning around and behaving in exactly the same manner as they did. Again, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And yet there isn't a single shred of irony. I would get it if at least one of them winked at me and said, we're in charge now. The other stuff, we were just kidding. I'd actually feel better about it. But they are impervious irony. They are perviously to the lunacy of this situation. We are entering a dangerous era in American politics where simply the truth does not matter, because the truth is reinvented by the moment by a president who clearly is going to manipulate emotions in order to achieve higher levels of personal power for himself, at the same time already ignoring most of the mandates he thought he had.
Yeah.
That's breathtaking.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely something to not ignore. We have 2 minutes left, so I know if you want to throw a couple more details about the convention up there, I know you're going to make a formal announcement, you said, this week, but I know that if somebody does have any interest in being involved and want to be able to have a voting say, I believe the rules, they have to choose to become a member 30 days before the convention.
That's right. The very first step before you do anything else, if you're politically curious at all, if you will, is you go to LPRI.us and join our mailing list. That's the first step, because then you'll get an opportunity to be on the mailing list. You'll hear about events. You'll hear about some of the issues we're facing, because we're going to have a very, very busy spring and summer. That's the first step. And you'll be right on top of exactly what's going on with the convention. There'll also be information about joining the party, or just information on just how to attend public events, so that you can get a feel for the party prior to joining. So that's the very, very, very first step. Again, LPRI.us. It's a website that was beautifully engineered last year. We continue to make enhancements on it. If you go to the news section, you'll see a number of the media reports that we were involved in last year, whether it be the Lively Experiment, whether it be on any one of the number of the radio stations, and us challenging Kurt Schilling, 38 Studios, all of that. And then, so please, and of course, the announcement as to when our next public meeting will be, our next public meetups. So
yes, so
that's very important.
Third Monday of April and May 20th, correct? May 20th for the convention. And again, LPRI.us. This has been Pat Ford with the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us such a thorough explanation within the libertarian perspectives and your personal perspectives. This has been another show of Colors of Politics in RI on RI Free Radio. And don't forget to hit us up on the social media, Periscope, Twitter, and Facebook at Colors of RI. Thank you so much, Pat. Have a great night, everyone.